Greetings, I am Toglin, Hell's Harlequin, but you may call me Tog. A big thanks to Bane for allowing me a guest appearance on his channel. Today we are going to examine an essay in which a feminist writer throws her own children under the bus, metaphorically speaking. I have 2 sons. They are strong and compassionate, the kind of boys other parents are glad to meet when their daughters bring them home for dinner. They are good boys, in the way good boys are. But they are not safe boys. I am starting to believe there is no such thing. Well, that's more than just a little bit harsh, isn't it? I wrote an essay in the Washington Post last year during the height of the Brock Turner case about my sons and rape culture. I didn't think it would be controversial when I wrote it. I was sure most parents grappled with raising sons in the midst of rape culture. Of course, rape culture. This is a perfect example how this writer's worldview has been heavily influenced by feminist theory, specifically academic feminist theory. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, feminist theory started out as a literary theory to identify how women are oppressed and men are advantaged in works of fiction. The feminist lens is unapologetically presuppositional in nature.
But in our text, instead of examining and just looking to see what tensions we can find, we go into the text looking for the tension between male imagery and female imagery.
Now let's examine how this writer's worldview is completely consistent with feminist theory to her own son's detriment. It was one thing to agree to be written about in relative obscurity, and quite another thing to have my words intrude on their daily lives. One of my sons was hurt by my words, although he never told me so. He doesn't understand why I lumped him and his brother together in my essay. He sees himself as the good one, the one who is sensitive and thoughtful, the one who listens instead of reacts. He doesn't understand that even quiet misogyny is misogyny, and that not all sexists sound like Twitter trolls. Despite the fact that it's internally consistent with her worldview, her viewing every man as misogynistic, including her own sons, seems particularly cold-hearted considering that she's written previous articles about her son's depression and suicidal thoughts. He is angry at me now, although he won't admit that either. His anger led him to conservative websites and YouTube channels, places where he can surround himself with righteous indignation against feminists, and tell himself that it's ungrateful women like me who are the problem. So after publicly humiliating her own sons, she chooses to play the victim. I teeter frequently between supporting my son and educating him. Is it my job as his mother to ensure he feels safe emotionally, no matter what violence he spews? Is it my job as his mother to steer and educate him, no matter how much that education challenges his views of himself? I think it's both, but the balance between the two has proven impossible to pinpoint. When I hear his voice become defensive, I back off, but question whether I'm doing him any favors by allowing his perceptions of himself to go unchallenged. When I confront him with his own sexism, I question whether I'm pushing too hard and leaving him without an emotional safe space in his own home. Describing the mere act of disagreement as violence is something I've noticed that feminists do more and more commonly. I suppose when you have the worldview that women are victims and men are toxic, you have to look for ways for that to be true.
Feminist theory looks beyond the more common male-based perspective to focus on the gender inequalities in society, specifically towards women.
As a single mother, I sometimes wonder whether the real problem is that my sons have no role model for the type of men I hope they become. But when I look around at the men I know, I'm not sure a male partner would fill that hole. Where are these men who are enlightened but not arrogant, who are feminists without self-congratulations? If my sons need role models, they may have to become their own. Part of me wonders if what she hopes her boys will become is transgender. I joined Bumble recently after a 6+ year break from dating. I'm not overly interested in dating in the first place, but I'm starved for adult conversation, so dating feels like a necessary evil. Bumble, as I've explained to my married friends, is like feminist Tinder. Women have to initiate contact with men, so at least there's no inboxes full of dick pics every day. But feminists are not. The men are no different than men anywhere else. And I quickly felt deflated. The men who proudly declare their progressive politics and fight for equality aren't safe. Then what man is? No man, I fear. Unfortunately, this level of gender-based paranoia seems like an inevitable outcome when someone fully embraces this type of ideology.
Women have been defined as something other in patriarchal societies, and have been marginalized, meaning they have been confined to a lower limit in society than men.
On a side note with regards to the dating app, I do question why any self-respecting man would subject himself to feminist scrutiny. I know I'm not supposed to cast an entire sex with a single paintbrush. Not all men. I'm sure some readers are thinking and preparing to type or tweet. But if it's impossible for a white person to grow up without adopting racist ideas simply because of the environment in which they live, how can I expect men not to subconsciously absorb at least some degree of sexism? White people aren't safe, men aren't safe, no matter how much I'd like to assure myself that these things aren't true.
All white people are racist, all men are misogynistic, all cisgender people are transphobic, all members of a majority are biased against the members of the minority or oppressed group.
My sons wouldn't rape an unconscious woman behind the dumpster, and neither will most of the progressive men I know. But what all of these men share in common, even my sons, is relentless questioning and disbelief of the female experience. I do not want to prove my pain or provide enough evidence to convince anyone that my trauma is merited. I'm through wasting my time on people who are more interested in ideas than feelings. I'm through pretending these people, these men, are safe. One thing that baffles me about modern feminists is their attempt to validate emotional reasoning. Most psychologists see emotional reasoning as a cognitive error and closely associated with panic disorders. If you're not sure exactly what I'm talking about, the basic premise of emotional reasoning is feels over facts. I love my sons, and I love some individual men. It pains me to say that I don't feel emotionally safe with them, perhaps never have with a man. But it needs to be said because far too often we are afraid to say it. This is not a reflection of something broken or damaged in me. It's a reflection of the system we built and our boys absorb. Those little boys grow into men who know the value of women, the value that's been ascribed to us by a broken system, and it seeps out from them in a million tiny, toxic ways. I don't know what the balance is between supporting these men and educating them, but I know the toll it takes on me to try. I am too valuable, too worthy to waste my time on men who are not my flesh and blood. But as my boys grow into men, I wonder whether I've done enough to combat the message they hear from everyone but me. They are good boys, and maybe that's the best they can be in a system we've created for them. When looking into feminist ideology, it seems to me as the more misandrous qualities of feminism comes from academic feminism rather than pop feminists or bedroom feminists.
And the disease rages on, consumes the human race. The fish rots from the head, as they say, so my thinking is why not cut off the head?
Well anyways, those are my thoughts. If you like what you see, you can go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and I wish you all a pleasant rest of your day.